Good evening, Judy and Carl.
Good evening.
Oh, let me change my background. Good evening.
That's going to be your dog, Carl. You're the only one unmuted.
Yeah. Watchdog.
That's okay. We all have it. It's better than the fireworks we all heard last night, probably until midnight.
When the fireworks start, she'll be quiet. She'll be hiding under the bed.
Oh, okay.
Nancy, this is Melanie. I just want to make sure before we get started, can you hear me all right?
I can, thank you. So real quickly, they'll have, the commission will have a few little housekeeping things they need to take care of, such as approving the minutes. Then they'll open the public hearing for your case. Brooke probably went over all of that, and then I will swear both of you in, and then you'll be able to address the commission.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, Brooke said that he would go through his presentation first and then give us the floor. Makes sense.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I knew he'd cover it.
He's been really great to work with, so
Oh, good.
we're prepared.
And Mr. Carlson,
We're
if I
in
could,
this.
sorry, Mr. Carlson, may I ask, are you here to speak in the public hearing, or just observing, or wish to speak under public forum?
Hi, good evening. I'm land use counsel for Melanie and Matt. So
Okay.
in a perfect world, I don't speak at all. How's that sound?
Okay, perfect. So I just, so I'm clear in case you do. So you're an attorney? I'm sorry,
Yes.
you're muted.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So if you do, it just helps me to know that I do not need to swear you in. Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That helps. So we are still waiting for our chair and one other member. We do not have a quorum at the moment. As soon as someone else joins us, we can get started. So Judy, do you happen to have a cell phone number for Michelle? Because I tried calling her home and she's not answering.
Let me check. I do not.
Well, I will try our other member.
Kate, do you think you perhaps have her cell phone number?
I just looked and I do not.
And I do not have Kate Fuller's phone number. If someone else has that, that would be helpful. Oh, here we go, Michelle. All right, I've just heard from our chair. She's waiting for her Zoom to update. So she will join us as soon as she can. Sorry, guys.
Hello?
Hi, Michelle.
Oh, there we go. I can hear somebody. Good, thanks. Sorry, my computer was not being nice to me.
Okay, Chair Austin, we now have a quorum.
Oh, I'm so sorry. And you're waiting for me for the quorum too. Oh dear. Sorry about that. Okay. I am calling the July 5th Planning and Zoning meeting to order. Nancy, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Kate Townley,
Here.
Meg Donaldson is absent, Colin Haggerty is absent, Judy Brown,
Here.
Kate Fuller is absent. Noel Adkins is absent. Carl Adams,
Here.
Brenda Hubka,
Here.
and Chair Austin.
Here.
All right.
Okay. I feel so bad that you all had to wait for me. I normally try and sign in early so that things like that don't hold up the meeting, but so I apologize. Do we need a motion to approve the minutes, Nancy?
We do, please.
All right. Do I hear such motion?
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting, June
7th.
7th.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kate. It's been moved and seconded. And any discussion? Hearing none. Nancy, will you call for the vote?
Kate Townley,
Yes.
Judy Brown,
Yes.
Carl Adams,
Yes.
Brenda Hubka,
Yes.
and Chair Austin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Nancy, do we have any public here for a public forum?
We do not.
Okay. Seeing that, without objection, I will go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the public hearing for case USE 2002-027 conditional use. Nancy, do I need a motion to open the public hearing?
We do.
Okay. Do I hear such motion? Okay, I'll make the motion.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Perfect, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Nancy, would you call the vote to open the public hearing?
Kate Townley,
Yes.
Judy Brown,
Yes.
Carl Adams,
Yes.
Brenda Hubka,
Yes.
and Chair Austin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Who am I to call upon to talk about the public hearing?
Brook Bell.
Brooke, okay, terrific.
All right. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Planning and Zoning Commission?
I do.
Thank you.
And I think we all need to mute ourselves because I'm hearing some background chatter, so I'm going to mute myself.
Yes, thank you. I was gonna say the same thing. That's a lot better now. Anyways, thank you, Chair Austin and Planning Commissioners. I'm going to share my screen and do a brief presentation, and then we'll open up to any questions from me, and then we'll follow up with the applicant's presentation or discussion and their questions. So let me share my screen first. Here we go. Can everybody see that? You guys are okay? All right.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Everyone can hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Tonight is the public hearing for a conditional use permit for a brewery and associated sales room. And this is case number use 2022-027. The applicants tonight are Melanie and Matthew Miller. The name of their company or brewery is Sunroom Brewing, and they're going to be located at 3242 South Acoma Street. So here is an
Brooke,
aerial.
excuse me, can you make your screen bigger,
I
perhaps?
certainly can.
Thank you.
I'll make it even a little bigger than that.
Thank you.
Is that pretty good?
That's pretty good.
Okay. Excuse me. So here's an aerial view of the property at 3242 South Acoma Street, outlined in red. In this particular case, north is not up, north is to the left. But as you know, Acoma Street is just one block west of Broadway. And the 3200 block is approximately a block and a half north of Dartmouth. And this particular property, it is zoned MUB2. So there are commercial uses allowed. And you can see that to the east of the site, there's a car lot. Actually, the Gothic Theater is sort of catty corner and east of the property. You can see the alley running down the middle. And then north of the property, I believe, is a church. And then south of the property, both this parking lot to the south and this very large building that's to the south, I believe it is a sort of a telecom related building with mainly, I guess, sort of switchboards and those sort of things inside. And then to the west across South Tacoma Street, there are various, commercial uses and some residential uses as well.
So this used to be a beer tasting room or something like that that just recently closed. Is that correct?
Yes, it was converted. It was, they pulled a building permit in 2019, 2020 to convert it to, it was called the filling station.
There you go.
And it was more of a beer kind of bar. And prior to that, years ago, it was actually a doggy daycare.
Right, I remember that too. Okay, thank you. That helps me a lot to orient myself.
Yes. I'm going to continue on here. So this, you can see an aerial of the property. The building is kind of an L shape. You can see it outlined by my cursor. And then there's an outdoor patio sort of in the back. And then there is parking in front. You can't see it very good, but there's some landscaping along just behind the detached sidewalk. And then there's a detached sidewalk and Acoma Street. So that's kind of the lay of the land there. Moving on, this is the applicant's site plan. You can see, you can see that at the bottom of your drawing, you can see that sidewalk where my cursor is, the little planting area between the sidewalk and the parking lot. And then you can see the L-shaped building with my cursor. And then the rear area here is the outdoor seating. And I'll zoom in just a little bit. In terms of the building itself, the customer area, that would be the sales room, is pretty much in the front. And then the brewing portion of it is in the rear. You have your outdoor seating, associated office and bathrooms, some coolers, and various other storage and mechanical type rooms. The outdoor seating does have a fence around it. And then there's another fence that separates this property from the property to the south where the telecom company is. So it's been a while since the commission did a conditional use hearing. In fact, it's been a while since I have. So I just wanted to briefly go over the procedure for conditional uses. And just maybe before I get into the procedure, a conditional use, if you think about it, we have in the Unified Development Code, we have permitted uses, which are uses by right. You don't really have to do anything. In fact, if this was just a bar, like it was with the filling station, the previous bar that did close, that is a use by right. So other than getting a liquor license through the state and the city, they don't have to do any special review by the planning commission or staff or anything. So we have uses by right, which are permitted uses. We also have limited uses that are uses that get a little bit of a special review by staff, but no other necessary review by a commission or board or anything like that. And then we have uses that aren't allowed at all. And then we have conditional uses, and all conditional uses come before the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the Planning and Zoning Commission is the decision-making body in this case. It's not like you're recommending something to council. You guys actually make the decision. So the commission is the decision-making body and conducts a public hearing and then makes findings at the end of the meeting that Nancy will take notes on, and that will either approve or conditionally approve or deny the application. So hence the word conditional. You can approve the application conditionally. And then if there were to be an appeal to that decision, the commission's final decision on the conditional use, that would go to city council. So that's our procedure tonight. So as part of a brewery, the UDC actually has, Unified Development Code, does have some specific criteria for breweries. Not all of them have, not all conditional uses have specific criteria, but breweries do. And in this case, and I'll just go through these, and this is more detailed in my staff report, but I'll go ahead and go through these and just kind of give at least what staff's response is to that. So a brewery is only permitted in conjunction with a restaurant, tavern, retail sales, or sales room located on the same premises. So you can't just have, you couldn't have a Coors brewery there and no tasting room. So this does have a tasting room associated with it, which leads us to the second requirement, and that is that the entire sort of operation cannot, the brewery and sales room can't exceed 10,000 square feet. I looked at some county records of what this building is, and I think it's about 2,900 square feet. So it meets that requirement. And then the third requirement is that the sales room must be less than or equal to 30% of the total floor area of the facility, or 1,000 square feet, whichever is greater. In this case, the sales room is proposed to be 1,000 square feet. And that actually happens to be about 34% of the total building area, if the county's square footages are correct. So it does meet the third criteria or requirement as well. And then the use can include the sale of food for consumption on premises, but it's not required to. Sorry about that. It's not required to. So some uses, like a brew pub, is required to have food on premises, but this particular brewery use and associated sale room is not. And then lastly, the uses must be designed and operated as to not create a nuisance. And this is a pretty small operation. The applicants have stated that it's smaller than some of the other similar uses in Inglewood or Littleton. It's a 7-barrel system, which I think the applicant can expand on when they talk with the commission. But really, there's not much difference between this and the bar that was previously there, such that it would create a nuisance. So that kind of goes through the items that are in the Unified Development Code that we look at. Next, there is also criteria for all.
Sorry, Brooke.
Yes.
Here, Austin has a question.
Oh, please do. Sorry.
This is a specific question. Is the requirement for serving food, is that because the brew pub license from the state liquor board is a requirement of the state liquor board, or is that part is also in our code?
That is in our code.
Okay,
and
well,
the exact language, I simplified the language a little bit. Actually, that's actually a really good question, because of me abbreviating that bullet point number 4, the actual language from our code, I think, will answer your question. It says these uses, this is what I guess you could say it should say. These uses may include the sale of food for consumption on the premises, subject to state liquor code requirements. And when I was talking about the brew pub, I believe that is a state liquor code requirement.
okay,
So yes, thank you.
sure. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the Unified Development Code does lay out some Planning and Zoning Commission review criteria, and this is not just for breweries. This is for any conditional use. So this is a lot more generic. And I'll go through these. And again, I have more detailed, at least staff responses in your staff report. The applicant also in their application has responded to each of these, but we'll go through them and see what we have here. So the first one is the use must be permitted as a conditional use in the zone district in which it is proposed to be located. So you can't just do this anywhere. It has to be in our use table with a little C in the box for conditional use. Yes, it does have a review by the Planning and Zoning Commission, but if the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval, it is permitted. Secondly, the conditional use and in the MUB2, that is a conditional use for a brewery with an associated sales room. Number two, the conditional use shall not create adverse impacts to the existing surrounding development, including A, significant increases in traffic and parking beyond what would be a use by right. Again, we mentioned there was a bar there previously, and it's a very similar use, similar parking requirement. So that was approved in 19 going into 20. And so there is not a significant increase in traffic or parking. B, the building heights or bulk, they can't be significantly larger than those on nearby properties. This is a one-story building. They're not doing any exterior improvements or any expansion. So it is not any different than what has been there for a couple of decades. C, it can't have a lack of screening or parking loading, traffic circulation, or outdoor activities, or garbage collection. The parking is behind some landscaping that fronts onto Acoma Street. Same with the loading. Again, there's no really traffic circulation other than a little drive-in parking lot. And then those outdoor activities, meaning the outdoor seating, is behind a 6-foot fence. So I think there's adequate screening. And then D, in terms of intrusions of noise, light, dust, or glare, again, this property is inwardly focused indoors for the most part, and there is no really planned improvements that would increase any of those items. And then E, would this conditional use create a significant increase on burdens to schools, public utilities, government services, more than would be generated by a use by right, say a bar, and staff does not believe that is the case. And then lastly, at least for number 2 here, the hours of operation that begin, you don't want to have hours of operation that begin significantly earlier or end significantly later than those on nearby properties. What's likely that the church and some of the uses across the street would likely begin their operations earlier in the day than the brewery and sales room would. And it's actually likely that the Gothic and perhaps the Devil's Head Distillery that is located just south on the same side of the street would potentially end later than this brewery, than the Sunroom Brewery property. So it meets that criteria. Moving on, the number of off-street parking spaces shall not be less than the requirements of 16-6-4. That goes back to the former bar was approved with enough parking. It's in the same use category. So that one is met. And then number 4 is kind of a catch-all. The conditional use shall meet all other applicable provisions of the Inglewood Municipal Code. So anything else that applies, if down the road or while they're getting, they will have to apply for a building permit to do some of these improvements. So obviously all those provisions would apply to this operation. And then lastly is really not applicable. It's talking about a conditional use for a cell tower antenna. So number 5 is not applicable. So with that, we did take this conditional use permit request to one of our development review team meetings. As you know, those meetings include, building, fire, engineering, traffic, wastewater, and utilities. And they initially had some comments to which the applicant responded at a subsequent DRT. And as of now, there are no objections to this request for a conditional use permit. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve conditional use permit number use 2022-027 with the following conditions. And of course, the commission can go along with these conditions, can add to them, can change them. But the community development just happened to have 5 pretty simple conditions. And that is that the applicants, as I mentioned, shall obtain all permits and required licenses prior to commencing operations. Meaning, if the applicant's request is approved tonight, we notify our liquor licensing, they notify the state, and whatever the state process is, moves forward knowing that they have the required zoning approval, local zoning approval. So that's recommendation number 1. Recommendation number 2 is very much a catch-all. Must comply with all other federal, state, and local codes. Number 3, any outside smoking area must meet the requirements for the Colorado Clean Air Act. I don't know that the applicants are even proposing something like that, but if they do, it needs to meet that. Then number 4, to the maximum extent, the applicant shall take all possible precautions and measures to control odors produced by the operation. When we had our very first brewery here in town, there weren't actual concerns. There were concerns that there might be odors, and we've never had any sort of complaint or anything, but we did put that in as a condition anyways, that people would do everything they could to take precautions to control that. And then the fifth condition is that the approval of the conditional use permit does not constitute approval of the applicant's site or floor plan. So the site plan and floor plan we saw, that's not something that has been approved to be built on tomorrow. It's just a preliminary, and then we'll have to follow up with some building permits. And formal approval of the site or building improvements shall be based on plans and documents required for those permits. So I guess what I would say is I would open it up to any questions first from me, and if I can't answer those questions, perhaps the applicant can when it's their time. And then I think as we get to the end of you guys discussing and ultimately voting, it'd be good to for commissioners to state some of these items and kind of even go back to some of the review criteria and just reinforce that for our findings. So with that, I'm open for questions, and I see hands up. Nancy, do you want to pick who goes?
Yep, because I have them in order. So it's going to go Judy, Kate, the chair, and Carl. So Judy first.
2 quick questions. One's procedural. Okay, once we, if the conditional use is approved, then that continues on with, I believe it renews yearly, but that's as long as it continues to be used in this method, regardless of who is running the brewery. So if the applicants would sell the business, that it doesn't negate the conditional use. Is that correct?
That is correct, provided there's not a a significant change in how it operates. So yes, that is correct. It would run with the land if it was operated in the same manner. That's correct.
And then the other one is just briefly on the food thing. So they're not currently choosing to provide food. If they would choose to do that, do they have to come back to us again? Or is that an automatic part of this conditional use? Should they so choose to offer food?
It would be automatic. I went back to this slide and you can see that it says here, the use may include the sale of food for consumption on the premises, but it's not required. So in essence, that's saying, and obviously we're talking about it here, that if they wanted to do that, they wouldn't have to come back.
Kate Townley?
Yeah, I have a question on the odor recommendation. Do we have like a precedent for that, or is there something else? I mean, many things smell, coffee smells, bakery smells, like, and it can be up to people's, it's sort of subjective as well. And my concern with that is just that if this is a conditional use and there's complaints related to odor, what would the applicant need to show that they have in place to say that they're at that maximum extent of control? Because even at that extent, there may be some odor that may bother some people and it may not bother other people. And I would be concerned with that. I would want to know that they have some protections in that if they have things in place to control odor. So I don't know if we have other examples of that, or if maybe that's something the applicant can address as well.
I'll give you my opinion on it, and then I do think it'd be great if the applicant responded when it's their time. But you are absolutely right. There's not some sort of measuring tool. It's not like decibels for sound. You could say smells are in the nose of the beholder. And quite frankly, this was a condition on a previous one that we approved, and we haven't had any real complaints about it. I think it started, if you drive through Golden, all of a sudden you get that. It's kind of like you can't define it, but you know it when you do it, or when you go by the Purina plant on the elevated portion of I-70, you can kind of smell that. I don't see an issue with this. And certainly from staff's perspective, even though we've put it down as a potential condition in our recommendation, if the commission wanted to strike that, that would be fine with staff. We just put it in there as a precaution. Does it give a lot of practical solutions or ways to measure what the maximum extent is? No, you're correct, it does not.
Okay, Chair Austin?
Well, quickly, I'll just comment on your last comment, Brooke. I think you should just leave it in and it'll be fine. But what I was asking about, did I go asleep on this community development recommendation? Because I have that there's a number 6 that I didn't see that was shown to us. And that might answer Judy's question about how long this conditional use lasts.
Correct. And I actually, I put that in my staff report, which I wrote a week or so ago, and I left it out of this because actually that number 6 is part of the Unified Development Code. So it applies whether you or we add it as a condition or not. That is language directly out of Chapter 2 of the Unified Development Code. So I didn't think we needed to restate it, even though it is in my staff report.
Sure. And so if any of the commissioners want to look that up, it's in your packet. It's page 10 of your packet. So, but it basically talks about the city manager will make sure they're doing everything right in a year, and the use is only for a year, but it could be, re-upped and all that sort of stuff. So, okay, thank you. I was concerned I missed something there. So
And the applicants, yeah, it basically says that the city manager designee shall review the conditional use on an annual basis for compliance. And then it should, if it is in compliance, it's renewed for another year. If it's no longer operating, and we send out a mailer to everybody asking them if they're still operating in the same manner. If the ownership has changed, we send that out to everybody. And then if the conditional use is found not to be in compliance, then, you know, basically you can shut it down. I will note that the applicant really doesn't have to do anything. They don't have to reapply for it or anything, or they do need to return what we mail to them, and then we go out and do a very quick inspection to see if there's been any substantial changes in the way that it operates. So it sort of happens not automatically, but it's initiated by the city. It doesn't even need to be initiated by the applicant.
Okay, Carl?
As far as permits go, is there a permit for the installation of the barrels? Is there any way, does Inglewood know how to even look at something like that when the barrels are installed?
Well, I don't know how to look at that from a zoning perspective, but certainly our building division, you know, I don't know everything that's going to be required from the building division, but you know, there's probably an electrical component to it. There's, you know, a lot of permits have electrical, mechanical components to them. Obviously, a building, and you know, building and safety review. Also, I know that the wastewater treatment folks looked at this, so I don't know all the intricacies of that, but I do know they're going to need some permits.
All right. As far as the smell goes, the pot shop that's at like 4200 South Broadway, they have some very expensive filters that they use to eliminate the smell. And if they don't change the filters out quite often enough, that the smell is pretty bad. And they've had some complaints from the neighbors on that, but not a lot. But I'll drive by there, and I think my car's burning up because of the smell. It gets pretty strong sometimes. And there definitely needs to be some kind of regulation on the smell, because the grains, the malts and the grains and stuff, they get pretty rank if they're not controlled.
Okay.
Brenda?
Right. My question is just about the neighbors being notified. Similarly to like going for variance, is there signage on the building right now, and are we confident that there's not any objections from some of the residents across the street? Maybe Melanie can tell us if she's knocked on any doors, and of course, Blair, you can tell you, is there signage saying there is a big hearing coming up?
There is signage. I guess I'll get my feedback. There is signage. They are required to be posted just like any public hearing. So the site was posted, and we actually have a certified proof of posting that the applicant provided today that is notarized and includes a picture of the sign. So yes, the site was posted. And that's the requirement. It was also, this public hearing was also advertised on our website as well as in the Inglewood Herald.
I can verify that it's posted. I frequently go down those 2 blocks of Acoma as a shortcut from Floyd back over to Dartmouth. And because I use Acoma because there's no stop sign. So yeah, it has been posted for quite a while.
Any other questions for me? Oh, I see Carl's
Yep.
hands up.
Carl?
Yeah, there is a posting down there, but, and I didn't really look at it very well, but it kind of looks like a garage, somebody wrote out a garage sale sign. It doesn't look like a, printed sign like we normally see.
It looked like it was printed to me.
Really?
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
there,
didn't
it's,
really-
it's kind of hidden in, there's some volunteer elm trees right there. And sometimes
Yeah.
if the wind blows it, it blows over that white, but it's that regular white sign with black letters. It's there. It's close to the ground though.
Okay, any other questions? Chair, I do not see any other hands. You're
Okay,
muted.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, Brooke, do you have further things to talk to us about?
I do not. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and move on. Thank you very much. And if you have any other questions later, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. That was very helpful. And I think
So the-
most of us know exactly where the location that we're talking about. Yes, Nancy.
I was going to say if the two our applicants would come off of mute and on screen. And if you'd raise your right hand, I'll swear you both in at the same time. Do you swear affirm under the penalties of perjury that you'll tell the truth in this proceeding before the Planning and Zoning Commission?
I do.
Okay, so if you just mind stating your name and addresses when you speak, that would be wonderful. Thanks.
Sure. I'll go first. This is Melanie Miller, 1324 South Leininger Drive in Golden, 80401. Do you want Matt to state his as well?
Yes, please. And then that way you both can speak if you wish.
Yes, Matthew Miller. I also live at 1324 South Linden Drive in Golden, Colorado. We're actually kitty corner. I am just on our 2-year-old. Our 9-month-old is teething, and our 2-year-old is asleep. So I'm on kid duty. My wife's going to take it away.
Thank you so much. All right, Melanie.
Thank you. Grateful for a quick chance to introduce ourselves. I know we've been here together for a few minutes now, but Matt and I are the sole owners and future operators of Sunroom Brewing. Our plan is for this to be solely family owned and a family oriented establishment. So just really grateful for the chance to be here and talking with you all tonight. Brooke, I said this before you joined, but I wanted to thank you for your partnership in getting us to this point. You've been very, very helpful in guiding us through the process as folks who've never had to go before a zoning board before. So thank you so much for your help. Matt is the brains and the brawn and the beer behind this operation, and I am his partner in all things. So he has the technical knowledge and all of the recipes that are going to make our beer great. I should mention for those that weren't on the call, Eric Carlson is our land use counsel, and he's on the line as well, just in case anything comes up that he may need to speak to. Wanted you all to know that he was here. So Matt has been brewing beer in our home for the last several years, and for years before that. He and I both work in the software industry currently, and it is our plan to stop doing that and stop staring at computer screens by operating a brewery instead. We were looking for locations where we wanted this venture to land. We were really drawn to Englewood and grateful to land there, not only because of this facility itself, but because we heard and we knew that it functions like a small town within this big metro area. And that's already proven true. The sense of community that we felt, the welcome that we felt from the neighborhood already has been really warm and really strong. There was a question earlier about whether we'd knocked on doors or met any of the neighbors, and the answer to that is absolutely yes. We've met the church next door, the distillery down the way, There's a neighborhood group that operates within that Cushing neighborhood that we got involved with early on, and are looking forward to partnering with as the years go on. We met with the chamber as well and got connected to the Downtown Development Authority and the folks who run the Englewood Grand. So we tried to make some connections in our immediate area just to understand the feel of the neighborhood and how we could better get involved with the community and meet everybody where they're at. So like I said, so far the welcome has been nothing but warm, and we've gotten comments even from some of the neighborhood groups on our social media advertisements that they're very excited to have a brewery within walking distance and something that's a bit more local. So that's who we are. I wanted to speak to a couple of the questions that came up. Our zoning sign, I can confirm, was printed. We used the FedEx to print it, and it turned out to be like maybe like a 5:4 sign. It is quite large. So if there's any concern about that, I'm happy to provide further evidence, but it was printed and not handwritten. To the size of our brewery, we are going to be a 7-barrel system, as Brooke mentioned. That just speaks to the measurement of the equipment. So we're not bringing in barrels like you might imagine, like for whiskey barrels. It is like stainless steel equipment that requires water to be plumbed in, and it runs off electricity. So we use the barrel measurement, but there aren't actual physical barrels there, if that makes sense. It's just an antiquated kind of industry term. But we are the smallest brewery in Englewood and Littleton. Our intention is really just to brew really good beer and serve it on site, create a space where people in the community can come and gather and linger and bring their families and their children. As Matt said, we have 2 small ones of our own, so we're looking forward to creating a space where people feel comfortable bringing their kids as well. And we will be making our beer available to go, so putting it in cans or growlers that people can then take and consume at home or a friend's house, wherever they may need to take it. But that's the intention there. So we're not intending to be like big distribution, Coors style or Denver Beer Company style. We're really a small shop that just wants to be in a neighborhood and build community around it. Any questions on anything I've said so far?
I don't see any.
All right, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Um,
Mr. Adams has a question. Carl?
Sure.
As far as the barrels go, what's the actual measurement of them approximately?
You mean how many, like, how can I relate it to gallons?
No, I've seen them like 6 foot across before. So if they're that size, I don't know how you can get 7 of them in that little room. That's what I'm more looking at is how many barrels are going to be in that room? 7, and
Yeah.
well, how are they going to fit in there?
Yeah, it's a tricky measurement system. So a single tank measures 7 barrels, and there are 31 gallons in a barrel. So it's called a 7-barrel tank, but it's one standing system. So we will have 5 tanks total, but none of them are very large, if that makes sense.
So you have 5 different types of beer?
We can have as many types of beer as we can brew and turn over. Right now, we are only planning to brew weekly, and we'll only be making one kind of beer at a time. It's probably, I know this is an odd scale to wrap your brain around, but some of the other breweries in the area brew on a 10-barrel or even 15-barrel system. So just for perspective, we are smaller, but I know that it's hard to conceptualize without understanding how big some of the others are.
Yeah, a barrel, the measurement barrel comes from the oil industry, which you are thinking those barrels, but the brewing industry calls them a BBL. So when you hear 7 barrels, it's basically 7 times 31 gallons. A barrel is 31 gallons. They're not physical barrels that we're bringing in, as Melanie referenced.
There was in the middle of the 3400 block, there was years ago, it was called Bob's Brewery on Broadway, and they had probably, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 tanks in there. And they probably had an assortment of a dozen beers.
Chair Austin?
Yes, just to clarify or reiterate, so the to-go, the biggest container is going to be a growler. You're not going to have like, are you going to have people can come and get kegs or anything like that as well? Or, okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay.
No, yeah, just growlers.
Okay.
That's
All right,
the
and then,
questions so far. Sorry, you're good.
Okay. Sorry, Nancy, thank you. The other piece I wanted to comment on was the odor concern. So within our system, we purchased an additional piece of equipment called a steam condenser. And without getting really technical and boring you with details, it basically makes sure that the only thing that goes out during the brewing process is steam. And it's not something that the other breweries or distilleries in the area do, but it's our best way of being able to say, keep the gases and the odors that are created naturally during this process within the equipment itself and release what you need to release, which is the water. So I'm not saying by any means that there won't be odor, but I am saying that we invested in an extra piece of equipment, knowing that we're in a small community, to try and do our best to keep it under control to the extent that we can. Okay, any questions about that before I go on?
I'm not seeing any.
Sounds great. All right, I think Brooke really covered everything else that we were planning to cover. We were really grateful for the opportunity to go through the development review team meetings and work with those departments ahead of time. Everybody's been very amicable and helpful to us throughout this process. We don't expect to have any adverse impacts on the community or on the neighborhood that we're joining. And certainly if we get complaints or comments that speak otherwise, we are prepared to address them. We intend to be in the community for a long time. We want to be good neighbors. So with that, that was everything that I was hoping to say. Are there additional questions that I can answer? One additional thought. There was some mention earlier of additional building permits that would be needed. The site plan that Brooke showed you all is the building as it already exists. So that's all of the significant construction was done back in 2019, 2020. So the site plan that he showed you is not a proposal. It's not a, hey, we want to build these walls. It's just the space as it is and how we intend to use it.
Judy has a question.
Might be for Brooke, but Melanie may know the answer as well. Well, I guess it's a combination. Within the conditional use, is there an opportunity for expansion if they so choose? And do you, if the conditional use allows expansion, and it meets the building codes of the zone, the existing zoning, there's no need for them to come back to us, is there?
You know, that's a tough one. You know, if they, I would say if there's anything even remotely significant that they wanted to expand, now in terms of how much they're brewing, they could expand that somewhat because we haven't put a condition on that limits that production. But certainly from a space standpoint, if they start wanting to do an addition to the building and expand the building, we would bring it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay. Any further questions? Oh, I see Carl's got his hand up. And Nancy, please let me know if anybody else has their hand up too.
Carl?
tasting room is inside, correct? And then there's a very large patio area there. Will drinking be done out there? And will there be any way to limit the access to the street from that patio area?
Yes, so drinking will happen inside the tasting room as well as on the patio. There is a 6-foot fence that surrounds the entire patio.
Okay. On the liquor licenses, the liquor license that also includes to-go beer?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion from any of the commissioners or the applicants or staff? Okay, I think we need a motion. Am I not correct, Nancy?
Yes, we'll need a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, let's start with the easy one. Do I hear such a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Nancy, will you call the roll, please?
Kate Townley,
Yes.
Judy Brown,
Yes.
Carl Adams,
Yes.
Brenda Hubka,
Yes,
and Chair Austin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so at this point, since we closed the public hearing, my notes say that neither the public, staff, or applicant can make further comments or ask questions. We may not ask the public any questions or staff any questions once this hearing is closed, which it is. So now we need a motion to approve the conditional use of the case USE 2022-027 for the Sunroom Brewing at 3242 South Acoma Street. Do I hear such a motion?
I will make a motion, or Judy can.
Well, do we need to make a motion to approve with the conditions as the staff stated?
Nancy, that's a question for you.
Correct?
If the commission wished to include the conditions that staff had in their recommendation, then yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit USE 2022-027 with the conditions as stated in the staff report.
Brenda, are you seconding that?
Yes, I will second that motion.
Okay, and if everybody can go back on mute, that'd be helpful too, unless you're speaking, because I'm getting a lot of feedback. Okay, do we need to, well, we're not going to vote on that motion yet. We have discussion, correct?
Correct.
Okay, any discussion?
Judy?
I wanted to ask Kate if she wanted us to strike number 4, because I'd be okay with that.
I would be okay striking that, or if others are not okay striking it, just maybe taking out the all possible. And it sounds like the applicant has already put in a system, so the likelihood of complaints is low. I would just be concerned as a small business owner, if complaints come in and then to continue a conditional use, you have to do more and more and more. The likelihood of that may be very small, but I think I would just be concerned with that. So if it's possible to just to remove them.
What are you talking about?
Judy, would you accept that if we strike in number 4, all possible, and just leave it as applicant shall take precautions and measures to control orders produced by the operation?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Sorry, folks, there's so much feedback. I didn't catch any of that. So if I could have everybody mute, and then Chair, if you can read back what you just said.
There was a friendly motion by Kate Townley to
Correct.
Judy's motion to, in number 4, the community development recommendations, which we're including in what we're approving.
Correct.
Number 4, strike the 2 words "all possible." So it will read, the applicant shall take precautions and measures to control odors produced by the operation.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful.
Okay, and that was considered a friendly motion by Judy and verified with Brenda, who seconded the motion.
Okay, great. Kate, did you have another question?
I was going to provide my findings as part of the discussion. If that's the right time. Okay.
That's fine. Go ahead. I know we've done it both ways, so whatever works for you. I can grab them
Okay.
from any part of the meeting.
Okay. This conditional use application meets the standards for a conditional use. And I think that this business would help the general welfare of the downtown area. It doesn't appear as though there'll be any of it that would be a nuisance or add any additional traffic or additional parking needs in the area. The applicant isn't planning to change the height of the building or really the layout of the building. So all of that would remain the same, at least for now. Yeah, I think it would be a positive addition to the downtown. Not as part of a conditional use, but as a request would be to add some bike parking, and there may be some support from that from other places. So, so thanks.
I saw the applicant's head nodding enthusiastically about the bike parking. I think that's means to me, at least, they're planning on doing that. And thank you for those findings, Kate. They're very thorough. Any other discussion or other findings to add to what Kate has just presented? Okay, seeing none, is it time now to vote on the amended motion? Nancy?
It is.
Okay, please call the vote.
Kate Townley,
Yes.
Judy Brown,
Yes.
Carl Adams,
Yes,
Brenda Hubka,
Yes,
and Chair Austin.
Yes, and I would like to say that I think that this will draw some attention to Acoma Street. You've got the Devil's Head Distillery right down the way there. You've got King Soopers just across Floyd from that. Obviously, the Gothic is quite active at many times, and I hope I have a friend that opened Zunai Street Brewing, which has been very successful. And I hope the same for you. I do think that there might even be, a potential for you to be a real gathering spot along Acoma, and will really pair well with the rest of the neighborhood. So I'm looking forward to seeing you open. Okay, back to the agenda. Oh, shoot, that's minutes. All right, so do we officially say congratulations to the Millers, or we just keep going?
The motion passed 5-0.
Okay.
So the applicants can either stay for the rest of the meeting or they are free to leave.
Thank you all so much for your support.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is staff's choice. Nancy, Brian,
Brooke, you're muted.
Okay, thanks. I do not have anything to add at this time.
Neither do I, Brian.
I have nothing other than I hope we're going to get the training session started at our next meeting.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Attorney's choice, Victoria.
Hi there. We don't have anything at this time.
Okay. All right. And I don't recall the discussion entirely, but what Brian's talking about is something that Judy brought up, that we want these little, maybe want these little units of training for the fellow commissioners. And Victoria, I hope you're part of that discussion, because a review of things that we should and shouldn't say to each other would certainly be a good topic. So
Yes, I am part of that discussion, and we're working on materials as well. We're also working on materials to address what shouldn't, what kind of correspondence you should have with, or really what correspondence you should not have with the applicants before, who have matters before the hearing, with the commission.
yeah, or with just general citizens too. That'd be great to include all of that. That'd be great. Okay, Commissioner's choice. Carl?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Brenda?
I'm good, thank you.
Judy?
I don't have anything, thanks.
Kate?
Nothing for me either.
Okay. Well, I hope everybody had a happy and safe 4th of July. It was pretty noisy in my neighborhood, but that's okay. It was only one night for the most part. So anyway, meeting adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Thank you
Oh,
all.
Nancy, did you have anything further? Did you say? I didn't.
No, I didn't have anything, but
Okay.
thank you. I
You're right.
appreciate that. Good
All right.
night.
Good night, thanks,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank you.